Hi, folks. Nick Tuckert here with the Historical Fencing Guild. Before we get into it, I do have some things to talk about. We're having a slight technical difficulty I had to rectify. The Historical Fencing Guild is first and foremost made possible by my amazing patrons. The 6 people who give as little as $1 a month allow me to compile that money so I can afford to buy gear and lighting and things to review and to set up to help you become better swordsmen. So I'm incredibly thankful. Every stream, their names run right across, and I couldn't do it without it. We are also made possible by Chaos. Yes, we're brought to you by Chaos, that force that keeps things interesting. Here's to Chaos. Chaos is a branch of the High Strangeness Corporation. And yeah, we're also made possible by the Simple Sword, the Fighting Axe, and the Simple Spear, all part of my ongoing series of Western martial arts manuals designed to help you go from having never handled a sword to teaching that art to others. We are also supported by our good friends over at the Independent Creator Directory. That's IndieCD.org, your one-stop shop for the best and the brightest authors, artists, musicians, and other creatives, where you can just get there without a bunch of algorithmic pressures, where you can find people who can help you get started with your, if you're an author and you're looking to get your stuff proofread or edited, if you are a streamer like me looking to get access to music. Much of the music I use comes from our dear friend Dan Hollifield, who right now is in a Discord chat talking about other things. But let me come here. Boop, and boop. There. I hope that doesn't get me popped, but we'll see. Well, that should be silenced. Yes, my phone was being very demure, very mindful, very orcish. It happens. But, sorry. Consider joining up and supporting them. And if you do, the one-time fee you pay, you can get half off using this code. Right there. All righty. We're going to go through the chat real quick, and then we'll catch up on today's topic of discussion. And that is... First through the door is Thesis. Evening all. Hello, Thesis. And Foxy. Hello, Foxy. Evening. Good evening, Alec. And Nick saw it today, but I'm working on a cloak and a bolero for the Nitsu cosplay. That is so cool. We're brought to you by Chaos. Nick quotes 2024. Yes, chaos is everywhere. Chaos! Good morning to the people in the Philippines. Well, I took a nap, so it feels like good morning, and I'm okay with that. I don't know how long I can stick around, but here I am, and I am so glad to have you, Cindy. I actually, in my travels, and I hope I remembered to send it to you because I don't know if I can find it again, saw a really neat set of practical titanium fans that they are selling for the purpose of self-defense as a EDC carry item. Made me think of you. I hope I sent it to you. If not, it's probably in one of the tech shows that I watch on YouTube. I'll see if I can figure it out. But Foxy's greeting, Cindy, and okay, hold on. I just had some updates, so my stuff is moving around rather gloriously. And let's see, Foxy's greeting Cindy, Alex greeting Cindy, Cindy's waving. Cindy kept saying, tune into the Historical Fencing Guild tonight. That's this channel. That's how you got here. More greetings, and where you can see me normally for the people who are not Gallifreyan. And, or weirdly, I guess, titanium. Wow. Yeah. Supposed to be very light titanium spines. I will see if I can find that link if I didn't send it to you. And find Nick. Yeah, find me. Where in the world is Nick the Swordmaster? Anyway, Nick's art at deviantart.com. Yes, there has been a delay while I deal with the issues I'm having with storage through DA. But good things will come. Be careful with metal fans, though. They don't bend like bamboo, so if you bend it, it will be toast. I think because they're reinforced titanium, hopefully they are rather good bit sturdier. I've known some people who have used actual spring steel, so that unless you extremely bend them, they respond quite well. Oh, it happens all the time. I hit buttons wrong. Find Nick where, Cindy? In the shadows? No, you find me on Amazon at amazon.com/store/Mr. Nicholas Anthony Tockert II, author. B07P26PSF3. The bamboo don't bend very well either, but they do develop U-turns, sorta. Interesting. Anyway, I did see that. I was looking into that, and I'm going to set. Let me just do a little off-screen piggity here while we get that set up, because I had some questions that were sent to me and commentary. So yes, and please support my Patreon folks. You guys are just absolutely heroic. I can't do it without you. I also need to let you guys know, in case you've missed this, I actually have to take the banner down for just a second. For those who don't know, the weekend, so not next week, but the week after, so August 6th, I will not be streaming live. August 6th, I hope to have a pre-recorded program for you guys at this time to keep the slot going, but I will be setting up for StompCon. StompCon is a free to the public indie tabletop gaming convention. It's held September 7th, 2024, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern at the Benton County Co-op Extension, 410 South Aidway A, Fowler, Indiana, 47944. Basically, StompCon is it's a bit of a dream of mine, because I've been running the tactics game Big Stompy Robots that I created many, many years ago. And I've been bringing that as a way to bring tactical gaming to the masses at as low a cost as possible. This convention is very odd in that it is free to the public, and I am charging the vendors this year what they can pay. I would hope, my optimum would be $50 from all the vendors, because that would give me enough to fully fund next year. But we'll see. So I've got some great game shops coming in. I've got some great local people coming out. Alec will be there, and with both Slade, we're going to work to give. My goal is to have Alec have chances to make money and chances to game, so there will be lots of rotation in there. I'm going to have Shadows in the Attic, and a new artist will be coming out as well. There are going to be a whole list of game-related things. Now, I am only talking about this on this channel, in part because there are some people who really would prefer to buy, and they've told me they want to buy my books from me in person. And if you come to one of the conventions I'm at, I will always sign them for you. I love talking with people, and it's a great chance to meet folks who may only watch but not comment. It's all a great adventure, and I'm really, really appreciative of those of you who make it. But let me hit the comments, and we will go right back. September 6th. I won't. Sorry. I've been dealing with some things. I might be in Denver in September, so it's a one-day gig. Not nearly as involved as ICMAC. Depends on what the imaging on my knee shows. It's been problematic. I am so sorry to hear that. But only when I bend it to a random number past 90 degrees. And yes, I do mean September. Guys, I'm sorry. I've had one of those days where I've been really pushing to get some things done. This tomorrow was going to be a rather sizable gathering at my home to celebrate my birthday, because I don't like looking at my birthday head on. But that kind of got there were some issues, and we will deal with that later. But sorry, if all things go well, I'll be testing on Dai Lui Bo, restricted push hands attacking from retreat soon. Excellent. Hope your knee settles down. Me too. It's been going on for a month and a half. I understand what you mean. Next skill will be Yang 24. Cool. I love the Yang 24. And Wu style Tai Chi Saber. Excellent. I look forward to that because it's funny, though I've done a lot more overtly with the God, I lost the name of the sword. I'm really having a day, aren't I? Jin, just word when it come out. I found the movements of Dao to be much more comfortable for me. So I may go back to dabbling in Dao. So I'd love to see your note, see how that works. So I'll be looking at your form in that because I like Wu style. That's interesting stuff. And it brings us into our conversation. I had a really great question. And the question that was posed to me was, what open-handed martial art should I couple with my sword studies? And it's very interesting because one thing that's taken for granted in the assessment of historical fencing manuals is the raw amount of pre-training that happened beforehand. You were not expected as a novice to show up at a fencing sleigh having no literal martial arts training. You have to figure, especially if we use England as an example, there was a mandatory, you were expected to do at different periods, longbow practice. That was mandatory. Everybody did archery. Everybody in the whole country of England was expected to do archery. It was so ubiquitous that that not only was it customary to find people who were unevenly developed, in that the musculature for the draw made their backs and their shoulders stronger, and the bones actually grow differently from starting it at a young age, to it was literally scheduled. Folks would go, they'd have their church. After church, they'd go shoot archery. And that was custom. It was understood. Likewise, fathers especially were expected to teach rudimentarily weapons handling. They were expected to teach wrestling. Pugilism was not nearly as big as it is today, but there was a lot of wrestling and grappling and various games about it that were designed to teach youths to be physical. So when you are looking at crossing over from, we'll say, traditionally demonstrated weapon arts and sparring to full contact, now you have to look at what will work for you. This is demonstrated currently, actually. So there are several armored combat leagues that are going on. Some actually historical fencing guild members have participated in them. I have known some very great people. Amanda Hatt springs to mind. Sabah's real name. Adrian Dinwiddie. A few others. Really, really massively talented swordsmen and women who spent time in the SCA and either as a parallel training and participation thing switched over to a group like Bohurt. But that's where you're going to find a lot more aggression. You're going to find a lot more physical contact. Now, my background, whoops, okay, I did do I think that. My background is a little different because I worked in the medical field for so long, working with special needs people, people with severe mental and physical handicaps, and specializing in dealing with behavioral ones, including my son, that most of my arts and the arts I am leaning into that come to that are covered in the system that's instructed called crisis prevention and intervention, CPI. Yes, it's affectionately known as hug fu. So I have a lot of that. I like redirect styles because I am a smaller person with significant strength-based limitations between my nerve damage and my just experience. I find I'm more of a redirect. And the irony, and one of the great funny things that apparently has happened is I've sort of almost reverse engineered, reinvented the wheel. That's much of it is covered in some of the more pure forms, the older forms of Aikido. And ironically, I favor most of the weapons in that system, though I've never yet had anything to do with it other than fairly recently looking through some of the assorted manuals and stuff. It's fascinating that a system run parallel. But what you want, if you are looking into a martial art, an unarmed martial art, and you're looking to an armed martial art, optimally, you want something that will intermix. So I would look at it's better to do it at the same time if you can. So something like Arnis, something like Eskrima, is a very good intermix of weapon styles and unarmed attacks. It just works really well. I have too many hangups from the different styles I've picked to be able to repurify down to a specific style. And I've got too many adjustments for what I have to do to ever really fight a pure style. I was actually joking and talking about some old, I was shooting this stuff, and we were talking about old stories with Amanda, my lovely wife. And at one point, I performed a gun disarm during a sparring/demonstration session. And I really didn't plan to, but I did. And it went off fairly well. But the funny thing, the funniest thing about it was my follow through, in that I got the gun disarm pulled off. Oh yes, I know what a meowdo is. I love a meowdo. But what if you're doing a pistol disarm? I need to. Okay, cool. Will this work? Can I grab it? You know what? I want something a little more pistol shaped. I have the perfect thing outside, but I'm not going to do it. Okay, YouTube. This is a Nerf blaster. Well, technically, it is a Dart Zone Max Outlaw. It is loaded with Nerf rounds. However, this is a revolver, which means if you remove the chamber, it cannot fire or hurt anyone. Okay? So, gun was pointed at me, and I did the classic clap style, which basically, depending on how you hit it, and I actually hit it from the top, so it's very nice. I suddenly had his firearm in my hand like this, and I went, donk, very lovingly, tap on the head, and then I went, brought it around, because I prefer to shoot, step back, and he realized, dear Lord, you shoot from Gigante. And I do. I've done so much Western martial arts that when I take a shooting stance, my upper body tends to be in a classic shooting stance, right? And I will tell you, I consider marksmanship, a martial art, should be treated the same way. But my stance is a little wider and a little farther back because my lower body still remembers Gigante. And at the time, it also was a retention action because I didn't have time for a full back step, but I could pull my line, keeping it from being a we grab and tussle. All that was done instinctually. I'm still shocked I pulled it off. If you're interested in this particular blaster, it can be bought at Target or through online for $31.99. If you have the hands to do it, it's an amazing pro sidearm. That has nothing to do with this channel all that much, but because we were straying into the practical, I wanted to talk about that. But what happens is what you do is what you'll do. What you train is what you'll do. That's the point. So I talk a lot about developing no thought. No thought is the concept that when presented with a stimulus, especially a weapon-based or physical threat stimulus, you do not have time nor capacity to go, oh no, he is going to try to stab me. I need to parry his sword out and respond. You train till your body just does it. And the only way to develop that is to develop it. You have to train it. Muscle memory is built through slow, consistent repetitions. So if you want to be able to do something, one, do not practice it fast unless your goal is to build up speed. That's a specific kind of thing where you're literally doing exercises to build up speed and control under pressure. And hi, Kitty. I am seeing you guys' chat, but I don't want to lose my thought. So to answer the question, if you are going to learn a Chinese, or well, not even just Chinese, we'll say Eastern traditional martial arts style, the vast majority of them, I have found, have ties to some kind of weapon system. And many times, the movements that are unarmed look or feel bizarre or different because they're designed to be the exact same movements you would do armed, and they are much more effective. So it needs to balance. Just so you know, I keep telling you everything needs to be tailored to you guys. So if you are a more passive individual, if you are physically built in a way where you don't have the mass and musculature for an aggressive straight-on style, you may lean into something like Aikido or Judo. I think Judo is a wonderful system in response to unarmed stuff that carries over really well. Because what you want is something that you can perform with limited grabs on your opponent that works very well at very close in. Do you get what I'm saying? Because the reason you're using this unarmed works very close. I mean, we're talking at body contact range fighting. We aren't talking at short range fighting where you're at or inside, an arm strength strike or a leg strike. This is body to body clinch kind of fighting. You need something that's going to fit there. One of the great answers, responses, very basic, but something everybody can learn relatively quickly, especially women, because it works better with their skeletal structure, is a basic wrap shot. Being my sword stick that is everything. It comes around, I need the space, and hits. So my cup for a moment will be the opponent. You are nearly chest to chest. Hey, baby, how you doing? Whack. Wrap shot. High, middle of the spine, low back of thighs. Can be very, very devastating. That's the kind of range we're talking about. And that's where you want something that will teach you how to stay upright, how to stay grounded, in that you are able to resist forces that come into you, and that you can, from that position, put somebody else on the ground. In this case, I would say, understanding a very basic set of trips and hip tosses and how to get through them is a very good idea. This is something you want to practice on mats. You want to practice under rigid supervision, and you want to practice unarmed long before you do anything like that in an actual sparring session. This is not something you sporadically do, because something as simple as a shove combined with a trip can give you what's called the reap. Believe it or not, a potentially fatal shoving attack that is used in the Marine Corps martial arts program, MCMAP. It is so dangerous as an attack that the Marines use padding to fall onto. Do you get what I'm saying? The Marines don't pad. They are not the types to do that. The only time they are going to use padding in training is when it's absolutely necessary to teach a technique that's too fatal, too deadly to teach. Not dangerous, too deadly to teach. And that's a modified shove. It's just that easy. Or that simple. This is why, if you're going to do it, you need to learn that. But you also have to remember, just like, I believe in at least 3 legs to any stool. Makes sense. If you have 2, it's not stable, it falls over. 1, it's definitely falling over. You need at least 3 legs. So you need unarmed, you need melee weapons, and you need ranged weapons to be a well-rounded martial artist, in my opinion. This is pure Nick. This is not the fencing masters. You will actually find some stuff like this in some of the Japanese historical, not Bushido, Aijitsu. It's been a while, so I might be saying wrong. But you have to think about, in this case, think about what the samurai trained with. Now, everybody associates the katana with the samurai. We all love katana. I have a trainer over there. Remember, the katana is a sidearm. It is the pistol of the battlefield. We aren't looking at it right now in self-defense. We aren't looking at it in non-combat situations. We are looking at it, at the katana in its intended role in battlefield situations, because that is the place that the training was focused towards. They had a system of wrestling. A lot of it was judo. They had a system of long melee weapon, which would be something like a spear, a yari, or a naginata, so a spear or glaive-like entity, a bow, or a firearm as your primary. So, and I mean literally firearms, simple hand cannons. And some of them got much more advanced. You get into, I want to say, matchlocks? Not matchlocks. I'm trying to remember what the ones with the string are. I have to look back into it. I'm going to put the I don't know because I don't remember right now. I'll get back to it maybe next week. But you want to make sure anything you're doing matches what you're going to do with any other system. So if I'm going to punch, I'm going to thrust. Look at that. It's the same motion. punch, thrust, and in the arm, right? Chop. This is why they had so many chops in systems like karate. Why do they chop? It's really odd when you look at it from a Western angle. What's with this? This doesn't make sense until you take this, and I need something knife-like that won't get me in trouble, and turn it into that. It's the same gross muscle system. So integration becomes key. You don't want to learn something with your unarmed strikes that will entangle or fail your armed strikes, and that becomes much more delicate. Oh, hello, ogre. When you're working in a group where you have to train others, and this is sparring for fun as well as practicality. A lot of people will learn martial arts for a lot of reasons. A lot of people will fence for a lot of reasons. This is why I am not that big on collegiate fencing as it is. And I'm particularly actually mortified by what saber has become. Because I believe that Olympic saber has become a non-rigid weapon style. And I wish Al were here because I think it would be great to discuss. The actual core sabers were trained with what were called gymnasium sabers. They move and handle like an actual sword. The reason we get to this is the same reason we get to thinking about how we're training our open-handed stuff. It's about consistency, practicality, and limiting training scars. And for those who haven't heard me mention training scars before as a term, training scars are impractical or unnecessary things in a that happen during an actual altercation that are artifacts left over from your training. So I've seen people where a fight breaks out and they reflexively go to start to bow. It doesn't always go that well. There is a system, and I don't know if it's the autonomic nervous system. I'm not quite sure what fully governs the actions in martial arts, but it is not, much of it is not fully conscious. And it's something that has to be explored because you need your mind to be quiet, your body to be working towards what it's doing. And you learn the skill with extreme mindfulness. But in that mindfulness, you're not just teaching yourself. You are writing programming code for your body. It's a lot of if-then statements that your body just, through perception, learns. If a shot is coming, then you automatically do this. If somebody's cutting at you, and you have natural ones. Everybody has natural snap reactions that will happen reflexively. They'll either cower or they'll try to block it. That system is already in place, but it's not very refined. And a big part of what we do through training is trying to refine that automatic response system. It is difficult. It is time consuming. It is mentally, physically, and at times spiritually draining to properly train. I'm not going to lie to you. Especially if you're building the muscles up, if you're training the nerves, if your body isn't ready for it, it can be extensively damaging. But we build out, so we have to get ourselves. It's all about stacking layers of capability. And many people do it haphazardly. I myself am a bit guilty of it, but not as much as people think. If you can learn it, though, it all should optimally synergize. That's why if you look at, again, going all the way back to earlier in the statement, if you look at the Chinese arts, especially if you're looking at something, my brain is just fried today for the names of martial arts. Okay, Wing Chun. These rotational fist strikes that you see, that's not a really good representation, but you get what I mean. The fast rolling punch while you're advancing, that's devastating. It is, because you get that momentum. But if you put a knife or something with a knuckle duster in, you get a deadly force where they become a meat grinder. The style bleeds into the weapon, and the weapon is influenced by the style, which is why butterfly knives or butterfly swords, people like to bounce this around, and I'm not talking about battle songs. Originally, the early ones were triangular and they were pointed. Frankly, I love them. As a Western martial artist who favors the thrust, I love them. But as Wing Chun developed as a style, with a lot of these arcing movements, the blade evolved into a stout, wide, gentle curving weapon with no real point or very limited point comparatively to its earlier, so that it can make a downward slice and maximize the cuts that the system leans into. You, as a martial artist, will be going through the same process. So if you want to learn a weapon style, look at what martial art runs parallel. And I think that's something very, very important. Because you want to understand where it leads, where it is from, and where it leads. And when you start to study this, as somebody who pathologically needs to know why, it's gotten me in trouble my whole life. Do this. Why? Why is it necessary for me to do that? If I did it this way, it would work much better in the short term and what I can see. And, this has got me in trouble with authority figures because they think I'm questioning their authority. No, I just want to understand the mechanics of what I'm doing. When you start to look at the weapon style and how it can flow through the unarmed styles and how it can flow through the same weapons, you get in the same patterns where you find things like why I have a huge love for the staff. I adore the staff as a fighting weapon, especially the bow staff. I'm sorry, especially the Joe staff, not the bow staff. I like the bow staff, don't get me wrong, but I'm quite fond of the Joe staff, which is the shorter version, because it feeds better into my other weapons. But you teach it, and you very quickly realize you were teaching all at least the entry level to a lot of the other styles. And the more you look into staff styles around the world, you see this pattern. Where people hear staff, they think mid-grip, pop, 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 Donatello. Instead, you'll see these long sweeping, and it's like, that's Meyer. It's the same kind of arcs you find in Meyer swordplay. There, the staff is at that moment a greatsword. It's just very dull and heavy. Okay. When you see a staff's piercing, you're doing a thrust with the staff. It's a spear. When you're doing two-handed cuts, it's a one-handed cut with a counter steer. Understanding that makes it a very Ouroboros. It's the snake eating itself weapon. Because it really is both the beginning and the end of the journey. And it's very cyclic. So I find it fascinating. That's why it's the hardest. Well, yes, it's the grandfather of all weapons. And everything you learn in the staff can be transferred to the other weapons. Absolutely. And the thing is, for me, it represents the beginning and the end of the training cycle. And not your personal development. I mean the cycle you go through. Because as you learn and you train, you will refine yourself. And ascension is not a single stairway. Okay? Improvement is not, I've gathered this skill and this physical ability, and it goes like this. It's a spiral. And on the sides of the tower that you're going up, you run into, it's like gates run all the way down in certain parts. And you'll find a new take on how you deal with the fear of conflict. You'll find a new take on how you control the temptation towards hubris. How you embrace the art of knowing what you don't know, or understanding the levels of what you don't know. And this is very philosophical, but it's also, when you start getting the level of doing this sort of thing for years and years and years on end, the metacognition comes in. And I think it's important in times where you're not physically doing it, but your mind is active, to look at the whys, the why fors. Now, I've skipped a few comments. I want to hit them up because Kitty came in and I wanted to say hello. And it's basically a Tai Chi saber. The guard might be a bit different. Some will have a ring pommel, but that's basically what you'll find. Indeed. Meow Daos are beautiful weapons. I like military Dao. A Dao is a very simple, elegant. To me, when you pick up a Dao, it knows what it wants to do. A Dao wants to flow through the enemy. It wants to sing. A well-balanced Dao. Oddly enough, far more, even though they're very close in appearance to a katana outwardly, especially a Meow Dao. The Dao wants to always be in motion. It's very dynamic. It's very constant. Whereas the Jin is much more deceptive. It's in motion when it has to be, but it's much more like a snake. It's fluid. It goes and then it stops and it pauses and it plays. It dances lightly. The Dao has no. It's not that it's not subtle. It does so openly. It almost feels like a more honest weapon, which is an odd thing to say. But I think you can see where I'm coming from. And a lot of times I have to talk it out. But good evening, Kitty, and a very great Kitty. And Alex says, marksmanship. People say firearms isn't within that because firearms kill people. No, they're the tool and the people behind it. It's the person behind it. If they have the intention to kill, they shouldn't be using firearms. But they shouldn't have access to ball-peen hammers or knives either. If somebody's going to go out and kill people because they're disturbed, they're going to go out and kill people with whatever they can get their hands on. There are people in this world, and frankly, I've met them. I have worked with them. I have worked with high-level psychotics. People who are literally in a greatly different world than you are, that if they got hold of this spork, somebody's going to the hospital or somebody's going to the morgue. And if they found out about this part, everybody's going to have a problem. I was working with one, and he nearly slit my throat with a pizza cutter that he wasn't supposed to have. Some other new staff didn't believe because he was sweetness and light, because he could be. And then when he wasn't, he really wasn't. It's part of the situation of why I left that company. Not because he tried to kill me. A lot of people tried to kill me. But because the company did not want me to report it in the way that it happened. So, no. Marksmanship, for me, is anything ranged that requires accuracy. This is the overarching term, and it does narrow down to firearms being its core, but archery is in the marksmanship family. Artillery is in the marksmanship family. Thrown weapons are in the marksmanship family because the pattern of thought for marksmanship is understanding the flight of travel. It is understanding a much longer range and how gravity is going to affect your projectile. It is a very analytical system, and it requires control. Whereas it is possible, if you are strong enough and fast enough and angry enough, to just kind of savage your way through a lot of people, in hand-to-hand combat or even knives. The effectiveness is so diminished with that kind of idiocy in most systems of marksmanship. Spray and pray doesn't work real well most of the time. And it really doesn't work well if anybody's returning fire of any sort. So it's about control. Ironically, that's part of why I like fencing, because fencing is very akin to that. It's control. And we have some greetings, and we have Tai Chi Saber. I'm going to lie down. Hip is hurting real bad. If I pass out, good night all. Hey, you rest up, Alec. If you need me, you reach out. Okay? All this is to say, all this goes around to the beginning question that started my off-the-cuff, bizarre little rant. You have to take the moment when you're deciding on a style to train in to look down the road to where that style will take you and how best to come at it, which is literally why I built the simple sword the way I did. I built the simple sword so that I could take the rudiments of that style and deliberately make it rudimentary, deliberately make it groundwork. It is somewhere you can live as a martial artist, and you can pursue everything that's there and have a very austere, clean approach. Very functional, very practical. And with that style, you can use the approaches I give you with just about any object you put in your hand that you're not chucking. And honestly, there are ways to apply principles of the simple sword to holding a rock. because it was the way that system and my approach was developed was very simple. Hence the name. I looked at a whole lot of manuals. Guys, a whole lot. I spent 15 years training people and watching, and of very different body types, different physicalities, different backgrounds. And instead of going, what are the niche things the peak people are doing, I went, what does everybody agree on? And building from that mentality of what works, you can then figure out what works for you so you can find your own fight. I encourage you to, if you are looking at martial arts, look at them from that practical standpoint. Just about every martial artist who is, a sensei, a dojo, a coach will tell you this is the best way because. And it's fascinating because what happens when you get a bunch of martial artists together, if you can keep the ego out of the room, they start to talk. And if the ego is out of the room, curiosity enters the room. And it's funny because Alec occasionally likes to grab quotes. I think that's one that will serve you if you're still listening, Alec. Removing the ego from the room lets in curiosity. And when you have curiosity, you could say, why do you do that? It's why when I was fencing and they handed me a buckler and I saw how the fencers worked it, I looked over at the heavy fighters and they were using essentially the same thing in a very different way. So I picked the most competent ones I knew and I tapped them and I said, I have a question. Yes, I'm a fencer, but I can't teach you. I'm not worried about the sword. Why and how do you hold that center boss that way? What are you looking to accomplish? How does that work? And from there, I was able to greatly alter how I fought a buckler. When you get martial artists, they will talk. Why do you kick that way? Why do you do this? Why is your heel up? Great one. You look at the old boxers. Now, fencers, I'm looking at you, fencers. Talk to the boxers. Serious swordsmen. Talk to the boxers. Many, many of the concepts will clarify your swordplay, your stance. Now, especially if you're in a style like the SCA or Bohurt, when you need to generate power to your strikes, start at the heel, twist, knee comes out, cocks the hip, rotates the shoulder, power drives through. That same motion can whiplash that sword. And by doing that, by understanding the root up, you can learn so much about how to protect yourself. Tell you something else. When you see boxing guards that work like this is one that annoys people. I talk about bucklers a lot. Real quick. This is my little old fencing buckler. It was made for me by my old sword master, Aidan McDougall. But, Dennis Yakus. I'll always credit him for the good he did. Well, I'm responsible for what he didn't do, but I will credit him for the good he did. Because I'd want somebody to do the same thing. Okay, offhand, you can do this, hold it flat out, block. You can palm it. Now it looks like a mitt drill. Hey, that looks like it would cross over to boxing training real easy. But if you do this with a shield, especially a strap shield, suddenly you end up with this deflective angle. You're covering everything. Sword is covering high, and this side, shield with just very little rotation is covering higher and lower, but you're not tabling. Because if you table, they can come at you from both sides all around. It's very good. So, boom. Boxing. A lot of times it's this out. You're up. You're scrunching. There are some amazing agility drills in boxing that I am looking into to improve my own fighting style to this day. Because this is the thing. Mastery is the ability to teach the basics. It is not an excuse to stop learning. I call myself a sword master, and of late I've been dubbed a weapon master because I can teach the basic styles to people. Oh, hello, Texas Dave. By analyzing, I improve myself, I improve my students. But you will always be a student. You're a student of life. You're a student of the situation. You're a student of your own body, especially as it ages. As you grow weaker, as systems fail and become less reliable, you become more like an early student. But you have the experience of not being like that. So you learn to minimize. You learn efficiency. It's not secret techniques. It's not unlimited power. Mastery is the concept of doing the most with the least. You are having the most efficient, most effective approach. And to me, that is beautiful. That is elegant. Very demure, very mindful. But because to me, the definition of beauty in anything is how close to a state where, how close to being in the state where adding or removing anything would diminish the object, person, or situation. And that gives it a lot of versatility, a lot of flexibility. That the pursuit of that and the movement towards that is elegance. Refinement is the action of grinding away to get there. Youth and weakness are loud. They are excessive. Mastery is quiet. It is soft-spoken. Mastery is calm in the face of any storm. Be it, negative or positive. Mastery as a focus, as a desire, is knowing where to start and when to stop and going no farther. Mastery happens. It is the gung fu. It is the ability grown through practice. Mastery is the chef who puts just enough salt, just the right amount of peppers that you taste the heat, you feel it, but it doesn't overcome you, because that's not necessary. Mastery is the ability to use technique and preparation to transcend the mundane object. And you'll find it in any great work. From Vivaldi's concertos to the blade work of Masamune, to the simple, quiet stance, comparatively, of Gigante. In its own way, the ancient aggression of George Silver. In the end, for all the complexities that are presented to people, to all the distractions, mastery of any art is simple. It just isn't easy. And that's my pursuit. My pursuit is to develop a kind of mastery that is so simple, so efficient, that when I teach it, it allows power to be developed in those who normally would not have access to it. To give strength to the weak, courage to the fearful, and calm to those who are disturbed, uneasy. So, looking at that, my personal martial arts, CPI, heavily influenced, Tai Chi, heavily influenced, boxing. I still think Jack Dempsey is a genius. But the key, when you are starting and you're looking at this, will this complicate you, or will it simplify your pursuit of your own mastery? And that's how you pick what martial art to use to match with your weapon style, and vice versa. Thesis has put up something there's good conversations going on, but Thesis says, one of these days I would love to have a panel discussion on my channel for different disciplines. Myself, you, Trey, Rich, all discussing our particular styles. It could be interesting. Programs like that are interesting. That's literally why I set up the Historical Fencing Guild. Originally, before I took the full martial, we're simply having theory discussion, because all practice was go out and spar. No one was being taught anything directly. They were learning through the combat, through discussion as they fight, but there was no groundwork being laid down. And that's what a large part of what this channel's about. It's about laying that groundwork and understanding it. So discussions like you're talking about are vital, and it could be fun. But friends, I have gone well over my hour, and honestly, I'm hungry. So what I'm going to say is thank you for a lovely chat. Thank you for indulging me in a very, very lengthy answer to what could have been a simple question. Well, a brief question. It was a complex question. We're already missing. All right, folks. I will be back next Friday for the Historic Fencing Guild live stream. Probably talk gear and maybe a little more active stuff. I know I got philosophical on you. And then a reminder that the 6th of August will be a pre-recorded program. Barring disaster, because I will be needed. But I'm giving you guys all the notice in the world. Well, actually, I'm giving you 2 weeks' notice, which is fair. I will be back. I'm not quitting this. Don't worry about that. And I will be again. I'm going to show you guys StompCon because I'm hoping that people in the area who cross our interest will be able to come out. It is a free to the public indie gaming convention held September 7th, 2024, going from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern in Benton County's Co-op Extension Building, 410 South Aidway A, Fowler, Indiana. Hopefully this year's convention, the signs won't blow away. I have to make new signs for it. And yes, on top of that, Dawn is a little worried. Monday night at, I believe, 8 o'clock, I will be on a program called IndieCD 411, where Dawn Dulas is going to interview me, I assume, about the convention, about what I do. Basically, I don't know what she's going to throw at me. It's going to be fascinating, and I look forward to seeing her there. And yes, that's because that's something I've been trying to pull together, and I have in the past every so often pulled together thesis. So yes, we shall see. But with that, guys, keep your guard up, keep your eyes open, be kind to yourself and each other, and always, friends, thank you for supporting your local sword master. We'll see you real soon.